Welcome everybody to another episode of the 10X Go-to-Market podcast. I'm Sandy. I'm not your usual host. I'm the head of marketing here at Focus, and there's a very special reason why I am hosting today's episode, and that's because we have Ben Pollack on, who's the head of marketing at Rippling IT, a good friend of mine, a good friend of Focus, and often the person I'll call when I have questions about anything demand gen, growth marketing. He's the genius. He's the GOAT on all things growth marketing. And so we are so fortunate that he's joining us today. Quick housekeeping items. If this is your first time joining us for one of these, please introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're from, what's your role, what company are you from. Tell us if you have any burning questions for Ben. As we're talking, just add your questions into the chat. I will be monitoring, and if there's something that feels like it might be relevant to the group, I will weave it into the conversation. And as always, if you're interested in more of these, we do publish this as a podcast. So go and subscribe to us on whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts. But back to Ben. I am going to give him a quick intro that might embarrass him a little bit.
Oh boy.
But so Ben is the head of marketing at Rippling IT. Prior to that, he was leading growth and marketing at a couple of incredible startups, Parabola, ChartHop, Reonomy. And I would say that Ben is super unique in that he really understands all of the nitty gritty of, all the things that you'd expect from a marketer, brand, demand gen, growth marketing. But I think one of his best skills is really breaking things down into frameworks and then figuring out how to scale those. And that's personally something I've learned from Ben. I've really been fortunate to be able to text him and ask him for advice. He's taught me a lot of how to be a more revenue-focused marketer. And so we're really excited to dive into all of that today. And hopefully Ben can share the same secrets with all of you. How do you on that bio?
The bio is way too kind and a total lie. No, I'm flattered to be here and honored to call you a friend too. And I've also been similarly lucky to pick your brain on all things that I don't spike in: brand, content, product marketing, etc. So it's been a pleasure working with you and the Focus team. I'm psyched to be here on all things frameworks. I'm excited to chat about them. My team is somewhere rolling their eyes saying, "Oh, this guy again." But hopefully doing it knowing that they're impactful and they help them succeed. So let's dive into it. And good to see everyone that's in chat. If I don't know you, shoot me a LinkedIn note.
Yeah. Okay, let's dive into it. So easy question to start. I really tell everybody about your background and your journey in marketing. You've done the early stage scrappy thing. You're now leading an entire product line at Rippling. Give us the journey of how you got here.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about my journey and then some learnings along the way and some shifts for me on what I thought was dumb before is not what I think is dumb now. And so I wanted to be a psychologist. That's what I wanted to do with my life. And then naturally I, graduated from college and was like, screw that. So I went to be a BDR at a company. And every step of my journey has been growing the scope and so the breadth, but also the depth of different marketing functions. And so my saying here is curiosity killed the cat, but it grew the marketer. And so it started as a BDR, but then became more interested in the overall pie versus my one slice. And so use some of those skills, suggest changes across the org that all BDRs can make. And if I can drive a 5% impact for every BDR net, that would be more impactful than me driving 100% impact as one BDR. And so that was the first foray into funnel analysis. And I took an Instagram ads class and started to dip my toes into marketing more concretely. And then at every step of my journey, I've been really fortunate to work with really bright, amazing people with whom I've been really curious. And so through that, by osmosis, I've learned from them. So what started as a BDR expanded into paid, which expanded into marketing ops, which expanded into growth marketing. And then I was fortunate to work for a really amazing CMO, which helped me expand my remit into overall marketing. Now, at Rippling IT, I lead the marketing org for our IT product, which is one of the products that Rippling offers. And previously, I led the marketing team at Parabola, which is a Series B data automation company. And on just the things that have shifted for me over time, there's a lot, but to call two out that came to mind as we shot the shit on this. One is that I used to think about like the importance of brand and storytelling as something that was like fluffy and that was fun for the brand marketers, but like the demand gen people don't care about it. Couldn't be more far from the truth. Demand generation is literally just that. It's like telling a story and building brand awareness so that concrete, get a brand demand is generated in market. And so like that's one piece for me that I used to think was really fluffy, and now it's like the foundational most important thing to get right. The second thing I really like learned along the way is like how precious time is. Everything that me or my team touches, I think about in a framework, surprise, surprise, of how much resourcing is this going to require? That can be money, that could be time. What's the confidence I have that this thing will work? And then if this thing does work, what's the size of the prize on the impact? And I, looking back on a lot of my experiences, would do things that were like super high resourcing that I didn't have a ton of confidence in. And if they did work, it'd be at a medium impact. And I've kind of learned how to like right size those decisions on where me and my team spends time, all based on how much is going in and what could actually come out.
Yeah. I don't think I knew that you started as a BDR. And so now the kind of like funnel nerdiness that you bring to marketing really makes a lot of sense. And serves as good inspo for, I see a couple of BDRs that are in the audience who are thinking about their next career move. You could be Ben in, 5 to 7 years or however long it took. I think one thing you mentioned, it definitely resonates with me, which is I used to kind of roll my eyes at brand and storytelling, thinking it was fluffy. I, from the product marketing side, thought like, well, everything's just really about like product and how you talk about the features. Like, who cares about the branding around it? And I've also come to the same conclusion, which is it is everything. Brand, storytelling, all of it. Like that's the thing that really sets you apart. And I think more so now than ever, as it's easier than ever to build software. You and I can do it using like Replit or Lovable. What's the thing that's going to set the business apart is that brand and how you tell the story and like weave that narrative into everything you do.
Totally. Also, if your market is X size, only 5 to 10% of your market is going to be wanting to buy at any given moment. That number varies based on the industry and the space, but like that's what brand and storytelling does, is it puts you in the position to be the winner when that time comes. And I think a lot of people overlook that, like longer term framework.
100%. Somebody once called it like the goal of your brand awareness is to be on someone's day one list. Like the number, the 1 to 3 spot for that list. Like that's the money. And if you're not on that, then you have to work way harder in order in front of those customers.
Totally agree.
So one of the things that I have learned from you is this concept of ABX. And so I want to spend some time digging into this because I think it's really relevant for everybody on the call. I think it's the modern way to do go-to-market, especially if you are selling a product that is, more than, let's say, 15K ACV. Like, you got to do it this way. And it's not just what we normally think of as AVM, of like, let's build an account list and let's just like do some direct mails and maybe go to some events. It's actually a lot more involved than that. So walk us through your framework of how you think about ABX. Give me the definition for those that might not know what this is, if they're new to it, and let's dive into all the details.
Sounds great. ABX, X stands for everything. The intention of ABX is a motion through which the revenue organization gets in front of and drives pipeline from and ultimately close won deals from a really concrete set of accounts and a really concrete set of people at those accounts. X stands for everything, and folks are probably more familiar with ABM, where the M stands for marketing. The reason X stands for everything is I believe ABX is more of an operations-driven initiative than it is a marketing-driven initiative. Reason being is ABX can function without great marketing and still work. ABM cannot function without great operations and still work. So if you're listening, like, you might be thinking, oh, that's interesting. Like, should I be doing more ABX? First thing I'd say is like, it's not for everyone. So you kind of mentioned a couple of the things that I would like look at as like good fits from a parameters for ABX perspective. One is like you need to have some deal size that makes it worth it, that makes investing in motion worth it. And then the second piece there is, I think, if your TAM is freaking huge, it's going to be challenging to do ABX because you're still trying to boil the ocean. At Rippling, our TAM is HR and IT. It's anyone with a business, right? So it's a little bit more challenging to do that type of motion. But if you're operating a vertical SaaS company, and so previously at Parabola, we sold primarily into consumer brands. There's 15,000 consumer brands in the United States that have more than 50 employees. Like, it's a really defined play. And so like it worked really well for us there. The process is simple. The execution is extremely difficult. Identify your target account, make that really clean and clear, push that into your CRM, and ensure that the prospects that you care about, like your ICP plus some of the fringe folks, they should be at parity with LinkedIn or Sales Now, right? So you have a dynamic enrichment into your system. So you have your TAM identified, you have all of the people at those companies that you actually care about. Now it's a simple process of rinsing and repeating different offers based on where they are in the funnel and action that they take. You may or may not want to take a subsequent action. So I'll give you an example. At Parabola, where I was previously, we had a target account list of around 10,000 accounts. We grew a BDR team. They were calling, they were emailing, we were giving social proof, we were trying memes. Nothing was working, but it makes sense because in their journey, those folks had never heard of our business, right? So we needed to reorient like what we were sending to them and why. So the top of the funnel, they need an offer. The offer should be so good, they're willing to pay for it. So for us, that turned into dinners, communities, intros, free audits, and that piques someone's interest. And then from there, there can be more direct tactics that follow suit that are more demo driving. But the intention in sharing that example is just showing that once you have your CRM clean and your TAM really clearly identified, the tactics that you test and try should be differentiated based on the stage of that person or that company. Not everything will work, which is all good. The things that do work, you keep doing them. And the things that don't, you throw them out. And you continue to test until you make it happen.
What do you feel like are the major pitfalls that the people fall into when trying to do ABX? And I can guess some of them are probably like ops related.
Yeah. One pitfall is not doing the ops stuff and just being like, we have a target account list. Now let's like upload it to the back end of LinkedIn ads and do some outbound. If I'm hearing that, like, to me, it's like, cool, that might generate a few ops this quarter. What's the process? What's the system? How does it scale? Gets real dangerous real quick. On the flip side, I think the other pitfall is like trying to architect the full system before you press go on any tactics. Like, if you're really clear on your target account list, but you're not quite sure how you want to operationalize them and what that warm give is, that's okay. Start with some awesome thought leadership ads on LinkedIn and upload that list. Like, don't let perfect be the enemy of progress, I think is the term, or something like that. So it's finding that middle ground between being really thorough, but not too thorough, so much so that it starts to obstruct your progress moving forward.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you helped architect this at Parabola and you were kind of the driving force behind it. I can imagine like actually, this was probably a problem that exists at small and large orgs. Like, this is an undertaking. So how do you like drive it forward from just like a buy-in perspective or all the moving parts? You have to get RevOps involved. You have to get the SDR leader involved. Seems like a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah, it's hard. Look, there's all this stuff that's like, well, as soon as you have a couple examples, you can lean on those and show why it worked. Like, I do that all the time. The anecdata of like, look at the journey for this account. We've been trying to crack into them for a year, and then finally got someone to a dinner. And after that dinner, we got to the other person. And after the other, like, the anecdata is so powerful. I think on the total opposite spectrum, this has resonated for executives or cross-functional partners when I pitched it, because it's so tangible. Marketing is an art, for sure, but it's also a science. The things that tend to be art-centric can be harder for executives to get buy-in on that are not marketers, because it's an art and you have a decade of experience in that art, but they don't. So it's more of like a blind buy-in. On this side of it, just the way I started to walk through it, of like, look, we're a business. We have a TAM. Here's all of our accounts. At those accounts, there are literal people. here are the 73,000 people we actually care about those accounts. These are human beings. We can reach them. They have LinkedIn profiles. They have phones. They have emails. They're all at different stages. This person over here is really cold. This person over here is quite warm. Here's why. It makes sense that someone who's really cold wouldn't immediately respond to a demo pitch, but someone who's been to 3 of our dinners would be more likely to respond. And so if we can accurately measure these touches, so like just even as I explain that, like that feels so literal and clear, and it's obviously not that easy. But I think the bad version of this presentation is the crazy in-depth chart that churns all the gears where a contact takes an action and that's pushed onto the contact object in Salesforce, but is rolled up onto the account. Like that nitty-gritty stuff is the means to make the thing work. So I'd say focus on the thing working and the why versus like the operations that are needed to support until you get to those ops partners. And you talk more about like why it's so impactful that we track different touch points to the degree that you're pitching.
Yeah. And for that ops side of the house, what should you as a marketer go to the table with and drive? And then what are you leaning on your ops partner to do?
Totally depends on the company size. Totally. At Rippling, we're a big company. So to effect a change as big as this, I would need to come with a big plan and a big why, but I would not touch one part of the Salesforce instance. And I probably would make a high level diagram of what this would look like, but figure it out. At Parabola, I was a quasi Salesforce admin. We were a 45-person company. So the level of depth on my presentation and like what I'm coming to the table with is much stronger. Hey, these are the 6 tactics that if someone takes this action, they're going to move into the next stage. And here's how I would break it out. And here's how I would set up the HubSpot workflow to ingest those actions and change the stage. So I think it just depends on your resourcing, how close you are to the ops and the size of the company. But regardless, the more depth, the better. I think that goes without saying, but it really does depend.
Yeah, 100%. I'm there with you. Focus, 40-person company.
I'm going to say, I'm sure you are.
Unfortunately for Jared, I still go into our CRM, much to his chagrin. Okay. So now that you have this like overall framework around ABX, you've got your target account list defined. And you mentioned like there's the SDR component. They're one piece of the puzzle, the channel puzzle. What are some of the other channels? And specifically, let's talk about it in the context of what you're seeing today, because I think there's a lot of moving parts right now. There's channels that we used to think were tried and true that are no longer, and there are brand new ones that are like barely validated, but everyone's hype on. So right for us.
I'm not going to come in with the hottest take here because I think I'm generally aligned with the way the market is heading. The one area that I'd push back on what you just say is I actually think the channels that are up and coming are validated, at least from my experience and what I've seen so far. I'll start with the things that I think aren't working anymore. Like cold outbound is not working anymore. Paid social BOFU is really challenging to make work from a unit economics perspective, unless you're driving crazy ACVs. So I think those are like, let's run conversation ads on LinkedIn, or like, let's build a BDR team and make a list and run a bunch of outbound. Like if you're not doing other tactics around it, those things will 100% fail in isolation, guarantee you. The one thing that as I now progress into the channels that I think are more impactful is like, it actually doesn't matter what your channel mix is, so long as they're working together and speaking to one another, right? If they feel cohesive. Example of this is like we run ads on LinkedIn that are at parity with ads on YouTube. And if you click on one of those ads and come to a specific part of our website, our SDR is going to send you an outbound message, but it's going to be within that same theme and topic. So they're playing together. There's continuity in that journey. Imagine everyone who's a prospect for Focus if you're in this call. And then Sandy or a BDR on the team sees that you were in this call and says, hey, I saw that, Ben talked about ABX framework and taking advantage of signals and data and doing that at scale and empowering your reps. Curious if you, be curious to see how we Focus could do this for you. That's going to hit 100% harder than seeing Ben joined or a prospect joined a webinar and I'm just going to call them and outbound them. So it's like, what is the connective tissue between channels? Here's the things that I think are back or here, depending on the channel. In real life events are so back. I could not believe more in this. Digital mediums are so crowded. I don't know if anyone's tracking like the benchmark cost per clicks, same cost per impression on Facebook and such, but like they're going up. Email's so damn crowded. I never answer an email, an outbound email these days. I can't imagine a lot of folks listening do either. But in real life events are where people want to be met increasingly. For us, it's a split goal, 50 brand, 50 like pipeline. I think if you go into events thinking like it's just a pipe driver, and by events, I don't mean like go sponsor big conferences. I mean host intimate happy hours in different locales or regions. So that's one. Two is building brand through people, through community, through influencers. Is so back, is so here. Like, look at the companies that have really gotten this right. Like look at Clay. They have a whole expert program that is meant to empower individuals to help preach what Clay is also preaching, and they incentivize them in weird, really cheeky ways to do that. What a lever. They get so much leverage from that channel without having to spend a ton of resourcing to like get those campaigns forward. Two other things I mentioned is like all things GEO, AIO, that is here. If you're not thinking about that at your business, you are too late. You should start thinking about it ASAP. We still think about SEO too, but we try to two birds, one stone it a little bit more. And last thing here, it's not a channel. It's more of a medium, like video everything. Video case studies, video testimonials, video webinar follow-ups, like video centric is here, not just for the brand presence it creates, but for the remarketing you can build off your engagers.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite out of those? Because I was going to ask you, would you recommend like the majority of people to do? But I don't know if that's like, it's going to depend on your business. But yeah. Which of these like best?
I have a POV. If I was starting a business tomorrow, if I was like, joined as head of marketing in an early stage company again, because I've been early stage my entire career until Rickling IT, where I now lead a marketing team within a much bigger company. And so it's a little bit like a startup, but it's also still, it's my first foray into later stage life. But if I was starting as head of marketing, I would prioritize. I made this mistake before because I chased the short-term gain without setting the foundation for the long-term impact. I would be building an army of people around me that are persona aligned that can help me grow the brand authentically. That is some combination of community, podcasts, influencers, and real life events. It's kind of a cop-out answer, but it's so true. Something I preach at Rippling and also preach to Parabola is like, how do you build a brand brick by brick, person by person, event by event? You can spend tens of thousands or hundreds of $1,000s on huge brand campaigns. There's a place for that for sure. But I know for a fact, if we can spend $1,000 every week and host a happy hour in a different city across the country, after the year we've hosted 50 events, boy, the brand impact you'll feel from that, the amount of connections you'll make and people that are willing to talk to you about a product or speak at a webinar or an AMA, it's going to feel so empowering and it's going to feel really impactful. So I'd say that people-led go-to-market, people first go-to-market is totally the bucketed term or the bucketed area where I would be most excited.
I love that answer. And I think it's possible to do that now, even if you are a small, scrappy team, because you've got AI helping you do a lot of the other work. So where should you put your time? Do the things that humans are best at doing, which is building connections and building those relationships.
Totally. And the other thing I'd just say here too is like the creation of the content has become so quick with AI. So to your point, where do teams spend their time instead? It's actually the areas that truly move the needle, which is I'm a demand gen person, so I'm biased, but it's distribution of that content and sourcing is like be a part of that content. And now the write-up is just the transcript that you've edited, right? Or to a degree. But like, I say this all the time, but like one of my frameworks is push is greater than pull. Pocus as an example here. The way this motion would fail for Pocus, when I put y'all on the hot seat here, is if Sandy and Alexa did these interviews, never promoted them, never went anywhere. Like, yeah, but the content's so good. Cool. How do people find it? The reason such an impactful motion for Pocus, because their distribution engine behind the content is dialed. There's a community, there's newsletters, there's different levels of who gets to join at what part. y'all capture the content and you push out the snippets on it. It is so distribution heavy. And so like that's why I think this thing is so impactful for you guys. Sorry, you didn't ask for that feedback, but I gave it to you. So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I agree. So we've got a little bit of time left. I promised lots of framework. So actually there's another one that you and I chatted about that I really liked. Because one of the hardest things to do is like helping kind of get your team all on the same page and like feeling like the DNA of the team is aligned to the whatever motion it is that you're working on. So how have you thought about like helping your teams build new muscles, new motions? And I think we called it what was it, basketball drill analogy here. I'm probably not going to fully understand because I'm not a sports gal, but let's give it a go.
Look, I think you could get it no matter what your proximity is to basketball or sports. I'm biased as I am a basketball fan. But I don't know if anyone on that's listening like ever went to a sports camp. Sandy, I don't know if you ever went to like a camp, crafts camp. If you had practice for anything ever. Maybe you're a musician. Maybe you're a musician and you practice, or you're in theater or you act. Whenever you do these motions for which you practice, you have to try new things, and they don't always work and they don't always feel good. Matter of fact, they normally don't feel good at first. But I'll keep the example specific to a basketball camp. At basketball camp, on the first day of camp, you do 5 drills. On the next day of camp, you might do a few of those same drills and you'll do a few new ones. On the next day of camp, you'll do a bunch of those same drills and a couple new ones. And by the end of the week, you've built muscle memory around what works. You've stopped doing the things that didn't feel good, and you've continued to learn. That is literally the marketing motion. It's the most tiring and honestly like burnoutable thing where like every quarter, every week, you're like, shit, what are we going to do? It's, oh my God, it is tiring. And so the way to actually look at your marketing motion is that you're trying all sorts of shit, right? Tactics, strategies, themes, topics. Not everything's going to work. It's going to guarantee you it won't. And if it does, call me and I should come work for you because I'd really like to be in that org. When things work, great. You nest them into muscle memory and you do them often and you improve them. When things don't work, no problem. You throw them out because there's a really clear success metric around that. And so I've been at Rippling IT for 3 months. We've tried a bunch of things. Some things haven't worked for sure. Some things now, they become my weekly cadence or my team's weekly cadence. Every week we do this thing. Every month we do these types of events. Here's work. We can improve this here. We should try that. And we're carving out space to try new things each time. But the real underpinning piece is like you are building on a library of plays and stuff that works while continuing to test new things to add on top of that. And as those things become more dialed, they take less effort from the team. They become more efficient. So your team is producing more and more outcome and output, despite having a increasingly large workload because the things that they've already been doing have become easier.
I love that. And I think so important to continuously invigorate your team with these experiments, because otherwise, especially in the market today, like if you're not constantly trying things and learning, you will be behind. So that's amazing. One last question to close this out. We're asking everybody, as we're looking towards 2026 and beyond, what's one thing that you would like to leave behind in 2025? Smash one B2B tactic, tool, or common practice. What would it be and why?
I'm going to say 2 things. One is messaging focused and one is like demand gen focused. The messaging focused is like, can we turn off the AI slop on how we talk about AI and the practical application for the use case for your persona? Tell me what the use case is and tell me what that is in like the most plain language possible. And if it's empowered by AI, that's freaking sick. If it's not, it's okay. But like AI-led, it feels so inundating. And to me, it's more about what you can do, not why you can do it. So let's leave that behind. The other thing I want to leave behind, I've mentioned it quickly, is content first ideation. This is probably a spicy one, Sandy. You might be like, yeah, well, if the content's great, people come. There's an argument for that. But like, I want to lean into distribution first content ideation, which is like, what are the types of things that lend themselves to virality or to social shares or to oh, well, if we got an interview with 20 different people and put that in a report, all of those 20 people would probably share it. And those would be our prospects. We should create some content around that. That is the way I think it'd be moving. And so I want to bring in distribution first content.
I love both of those, especially the AI slop. I'm so over it. As a marketer, I really don't want to have to say agentic AI every time I talk about a feature just because that might be how we built it. Like,
Yeah.
let's stop.
Yeah.
This has been so much fun getting to chat. We could go for like 30 to, another hour, I'm sure. But I know you have a lot more to share. So where can people find you so that they can learn more from you, connect with you? And get your advice.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, so shoot me a connect or a message. I live in Brooklyn with my wife and my dog, and so I'm always happy to grab a coffee or hang out for lunch or whatever. And don't be a stranger. Everything I've learned from people that are around me, that are smarter than me or more experienced than me. And I'm always looking to learn more from other folks, and I'm always happy to share my learnings too. So please don't be a stranger.
That's a great place to end. Thank you so much, Ben, and thank you everybody for joining us today. Have a good one.
See you, everyone.